keynote addresses in over 50 national and international conferences and has been a panelist in various television shows. He has also been a visiting professor at the IIT Delhi and the Delhi School of Economics. He was recently conferred the Outstanding Education Leader Award 2012 by the School of Educators. With great pleasure, Dr. Raj Singh.
Thank you, ma'am. Distinguished Chief Guest, Honorable Minister of HRD, Government of India, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Mrs. Renu Goenka, Vice Chairperson of GD Goenka Group, Guest of Honor, Mr. Gautam Gambhir, Honorable Chancellor, Shri M. Mathusa, Mr. Contru, President and CEO of LCB, Brother Griffiths, Professor Kelly, Nipunji, Rohitji, Dr. G.D. Sharma, distinguished guests, personalities from media, parents, students, my colleagues from GD Goenka University and sister institutions of the group, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, a very hearty welcome to each one of you to the inaugural ceremony of the university. For me, personally, it's a matter of honor to be entrusted with the responsibility of the first Vice Chancellor of this great university. And I thank the management and the Honorable Chancellor for this honor conferred on me. When I stand before you for the inaugural ceremony of the new university, I'm very well aware of some of the curiosity the parents and students have in their minds. I'm aware of the scrutiny which private universities in our country are subjected to. At the same time, I'm also aware of the numerous challenges which the university faces in the changing environment. And I will understand, having started 3 new universities prior to this. The transformation of higher education in the country which we are going through, as I said, throws many challenges, but at the same time also throws open many opportunities for us to capture and cash in on. I shall try to address all these issues and, if I may say so, try to unfold what I have thought of this great university to be like. When I talk about higher education, I think of the glorious past which India has had. I'm referring to the education system of Nalanda days, when the entire world used to find India as a destination, and to where we have come. It's a journey which is very interesting, but not really to be very happy about. What has gone wrong and when? We need to really figure out and then move forward. When I talk about the evolution of education, it's such a long story. I often refer to the poetry because that drives my point very home, very clearly, and to everyone. I'm reminded of this beautiful couplet which said, I'll translate for my foreign friends in English for their understanding. There's a couplet which says, जुल्फ रातों सी है रंगत उजालों जैसी, मगर तबीयत है वही भूलने वालों जैसी, कभी उसकी आंखों को गौर से देखा है फराज, रात भर रोते हुए जागने वालों जैसी. This is what describes our education, which has had a glorious past, but today it sounds like a beauty which could not sleep the whole night and kept crying. This is what we find our education system to be in. And therefore, we all need to really sit up and think, how do we move forward? Today, on one hand, we find hundreds of thousands of students going abroad for studies. On the other hand, we have perhaps equal number or more number of seats lying vacant in our institutions of higher education. It's a contradictory kind of situation. And then if we look at the future, we find perhaps many more universities required to be set up to create more seats. If you look at the current GR or gross enrollment ratio, which is not very high, I'm told it's reached about 18 plus after all the initiatives started. We have a long way to go. So on one hand, we have a lot of seats to be created and students not willing to come. It's a very precarious kind of situation. If one scans the horizon I think it's very important for us to understand the context in which we talk about higher education. And when you scan the horizon, I find a few things which all of us, particularly as educators, need to think of. And the first thing in the environment we need to take note of is that the decision making has moved down to masses, thanks to internet, and also thanks to miniaturization which has taken place. From large computers, we moved to desktop, to laptop, to palm top, and I hear from the scientists that we are about to move to finger top and nail tops. Now, it has really put the power in the hands, particularly of the youth. And if last few years are an indication, it's the youth which has brought revolution the world over. The revolutions which we witnessed in the year 2012 were perhaps an online parallel of Tiananmen Square of 1990s and many other revolutions we have seen. It has gone viral. And it changed the way it makes an impact and who are the people involved in this, though invisible at times, but making a great impact. The second thing which has happened is because of these advancements, the role of teachers had changed and changed forever. So have the expectations of students and parents. The teacher's role is no more a role of redistributor of knowledge created by somebody. They have to become the generators of knowledge themselves, or else they become outdated. Perhaps that is one of the reasons why we have gone wrong the way we have gone wrong, and we need to really, as a university, look at this issue very, very seriously. The third thing we need to understand about creating the context for higher education particularly, that the mankind today is almost on the threshold of the third industrial revolution. And this third industrial revolution will mainly be driven by internet network and, of course, renewable sources of energy. It coincides with the new means of communication, that is communication through internet. The greatest thinkers of our times, Professor Jerome Rifkin, has given this concept where he says that the mainstay of third industrial revolution will be in developing countries, and particularly India-like countries will have their rural areas seeing a lot of activities in terms of generating renewable sources of energy, and through very small smart grids they will transfer every bit of additional energy. It is that kind of world we all are going to live in as we move forward. Fourth, and this is particularly relevant in the post-economic recession scenario of last 4 or 5 years we've been witnessing, and is that of frugal innovations. The British government sanctioned a study which has given startling kind of predictions in terms of how frugal innovation is going to help not only India, but also the Western world who are looking at these kind of innovations, particularly in the economic recession scenario. And finally, what we need to look at the demographic changes. Today we boast of India being one of the youngest nations in terms of age. I'm told the average is being 23, 24, 25 years. 60% or more of people being less than 30 years of age. What will happen by 2050? As a country, we will become a country of senior citizens. Are we as a nation, as a society, prepared to support that aging society? I think the students of today, who will be the policy makers and decision makers and leaders of tomorrow, will have to be really prepared for that kind of world, which will be absolutely different from the world we face today. All these call for a lot of change in the way education is imparted, and we as a university are consciously aware of this. In this context, let me mention some of the things which we plan or perceive at GD Goenka University, that how we will see a departure from the traditional way of imparting education. Interestingly, today in the arena of higher education, everyone knows that what is lacking. When it comes to how to do it, we find we fail. It's there you'll find a university to be perhaps taking lead compared to its contemporaries and all the existing universities. And one of them is that carrying on the tradition of world-class infrastructure and benchmarking, we as a university want to implement right from the beginning systems and processes which are global. We do not want to reinvent the wheel. And it is in this context we have collaborated with the leaders in their respective field. Le Cordon Bleu, the LCB for hotel management and culinary as we expand, and Politecnico di Milano, the leading university in Italy, Milan, as you know, is in a way the capital of design, and PDM being one of the leading universities of Europe and the world, we are really fortunate to have these two great institutions as our partners, and this will put us ahead of others right from the beginning, right from the word go. Why this collaboration also becomes important, because according to me, if I look at my experience of the last 20 years and having established 3 to 4 new universities, the real issue is of not what we teach, but how do we teach. We teach subjects in isolation. We don't allow our students to look here and there when we teach them. The time has come where we make students of different programs sit together and jointly solve problems of real life. It is that kind of philosophy which we have decided to adopt, where each student will be working with students of other programs, other disciplines, and we give them real life projects. Thanks to our industry backing, we are perhaps in a unique situation to offer these kind of projects to all our students and give them hands-on, so that right from the word go, they are able to work in the industry when they enter there. And yes, I'm talking about interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approaches to learning. I would dream our students not only know their subjects, I want them to know about global trends. I want them to develop a capability to peep into the future and take decisions. I want them to know those demographic trends which I just mentioned and find solutions to support that society which we talk about. We do not want them just having theoretical knowledge of the subject. And we also want them to develop freewheeling. They're able to connect their subject with subjects of others and develop realistic perspectives. And this is one thing which we need to learn from our partners and of course the Western world, which has definitely taken lead in this case. I'm not undermining the Indian education system. We have many strengths. So idea is to blend the strengths of the East and the West and then offer programs which the society, which the industry needs to our students. Another thing which I thought of, and this is personally have scanned over the last many years, if a student makes a wrong decision right in the beginning because of pressure from the family or the society or the friends, or perhaps because of not having appropriate information, we have as a society no right to punish them the whole life. We're introducing a flexible system where it will provide a lateral mobility to students, even changing from one program to another. What I'm trying to say is that if somebody started engineering as a career, doesn't mean he can't become a doctor ever, or a doctor can't become an engineer ever. This is the need of the hour. We just cannot define the career for all times to come, which the student chose because of perhaps a mistaken kind of decision which they have taken. We need to help them to come out of this, as and when he or she feels it is right. And then focus on, of course, the holistic development. We have at the university a world-class sports facility, and we've been discussing with the management that a world-class cricket academy will definitely be a boosting factor to the sports facilities on the campus. Presence of Gautam Gambhir, of course, makes it very, very appropriate today to think on those lines that we should have world-class facilities, particularly in cricket. Thus, therefore, at Goenka University, what we're trying to do in summary, that we prepare the professionals not only for 2, 3, 4 years hence once they graduate, but for the future. We do not want to focus on quantity of learning. We want to focus on developing in students the capability to learn lifelong. And therefore, I talked about the quality of learning more than the quantity. And this throws open a great challenge to us as academic administrators and teachers, wherein we don't have to spoon feed our students. We need to only assure them of our availability and motivate them to explore, tinker their minds, tinker their thought process. And I'm reminded of those beautiful lines which best describe this philosophy. One of the famous Lebanese poet, author, and writer Khalil Gibran said, describing this relationship between teacher and student, and he said, if he is indeed wise, he will not let you enter the house of his wisdom. If he is indeed wise, he will not let you enter the house of his wisdom. He would rather lead you to the threshold of your own mind. A musician can sing to the all rhythm that is available in all space, but he can't give you the ears that arrest the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. So beautifully described the role of a teacher, which is with the students. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the philosophy which, in our own humble way, we want to follow at our university. Today, when I address the parents and prospective students or the students who have already taken admissions, as I mentioned in the beginning, they may have a lot of apprehensions. What I can assure you on behalf of the management, which has been visionary and very supportive, on behalf of the faculty, which we have carefully chosen and have undaunted faith in their capabilities, the brilliant students who will be a part of this great university, the patronage of our guests being on the dais today, and very enabling environment which we have created as a country, I have absolutely no doubts in very humbly saying that this is one university one needs to really watch out for. We shall try to make it distinct from what every other university has been doing. And this is my humble submission. I can say that please rest assured, at our side we will spare no effort to put this university apart. We will not remain in a comfort zone ever. And let me conclude with these very reassuring lines, which says, "Come on the edge," she insisted. I said, "I will not, I may fall." "Come on the edge," she insisted. I said, "I will not, I'm afraid." "Come on the edge," she insisted again. This time I came. She gently pushed me and I could fly. Students and parents, we are there to give that gentle push if the students don't remain in the comfort zone. Once again, I thank all the dignitaries, our honorable chief guest, for the gracious presence on this very important day in the history of the group and the university. And I wish each one of you all the very best. Thank you. God bless.